Israel and Hamas have agreed to release 50 hostages held in Gaza during a 4-day pause in fighting.
The EU has unblocked development aid worth over €300 million to Palestinians, finding no irregularities in how the money is spent.
More than a month into Israel's war on Gaza, and the cabinet has approved a ceasefire deal that will see 50 hostages held by Hamas released, all women and children, during a 4-day pause in fighting. In return, around 150 Palestinian women and children held in Israeli jails will also be freed. Ahead of the cabinet meeting, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told reservists his government was committed to getting all of the hostages home. Later, his government said any pause in fighting did not mean the war was over.
יש בחוץ דיבורי הבל. כאילו אחרי ההפוגה להשבת חטופינו, אנחנו נפסיק את המלחמה. אז אני מבקש להבהיר, אנחנו במלחמה, ונמשיך במלחמה. נמשיך במלחמה עד שנשיג את כל היעדים שלנו. לחסל את החמאס, להשיב את כל חטופינו ונעדרינו, ולהבטיח שבעזה לא יהיה שום גורם שמאיים על ישראל.
The pause allows for 308 trucks a day to enter Gaza, bringing vital food, medicine and fuel. Israel says the first hostages will be released Thursday, and the lull will be extended by an additional day for every 10 hostages released. Netanyahu has been under increasing pressure from the families of the 240 hostages held captive by Hamas since October 7 to do more to get them home. Protesters have been on the streets each night calling on the Israeli government to negotiate a deal.
The EU has unblocked development aid to Palestinians after finding no irregularities in how the money is dispersed. Outstanding money for 2023, worth €331 million, had been withheld while the European Commission conducted a review to ensure none of the cash went into the hands of extremists or to Hamas.
The review found no indications of EU money having directly or indirectly benefited the terrorist organisation Hamas. The review found that the control system in place has worked. As a result, payment to Palestinian beneficiaries and UNRWA will continue without payment delays.
Hungarian EU Commissioner Oliver Varhelyi unilaterally announced the suspension of aid in the wake of the Hamas atrocities on October 7th. Several member states objected, though, and the EU decided to conduct a review of the money instead. Palestinians have not received any money in the interim. The Palestinian ambassador to the EU, Abdelrahim Al-Farah, says the review was about saving the face of the Commissioner, as there was never any question of EU money going to Hamas.
There is no problem with the EU and with the member state or the Commission about where the money of the European Union gone. But after the events of October 7, one Commissioner, tried to declare that we cut all the financial support for the Palestinian people or Palestinian Authority. 1 hour later, the President of the Commission, the Commissioners or the member state, for save the face of this Commissioner, they, we only now we want to review the money of the European Union for the Palestinian people.
Development aid is money that pays for schools, hospitals, police, teachers and other aspects of civil society. Despite the audit clearing the majority of the money, the EU is seeking clarifications into 2 EU-funded projects following allegations related to inciting hatred. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
A hospital on the front line in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region crumbling to pieces after a Russian missile strike on Tuesday. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, 1 person was killed and 8 people were injured. The United Nations says more than 10,000 civilians have been killed since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022. This after President Volodymyr Zelensky held bilateral meetings with the head of the European Council, Charles Michel, and Moldova's leader, Maia Sandu, in Kyiv. Zelensky reiterated Ukraine's request to join the EU and is eyeing the EU's December summit for positive indications. The leaders also discussed security issues and the challenges both Kyiv and Chisinau face as winter approaches. Sandu Zelensky and the First Lady Zelenska also marked the 10th anniversary of the Revolution of Divinity, commemorating the 100 lives lost in deadly clashes between security forces and protesters in Maidan Square in 2013. The mass protest ultimately led to the ousting of Kremlin-backed President Viktor Yanukovych and gave rise to a new generation of anti-corruption pro-European movement leaders. The families of victims who lost their lives to sectarian violence in Northern Ireland during the Troubles between the late 60s and 1998. They are taking legal action after a controversial law granting immunity to ex-British combatants involved in the conflict was approved in September. The new law has been fiercely criticised by all political parties in Northern Ireland and the Irish government. The Council of Europe has also expressed serious concerns.
My family's destroyed. You never get over losing. I'll never get over losing my husband. His family will never get over losing him. It doesn't go away. You live with it morning, noon and night. It's with you all the time.
UK government passed a law which denies us the rights of all the victims of a fair deal.
The new law calls for the creation of a Truth and Recovery Commission and offers amnesty to British security personnel and paramilitaries for their part if they cooperate with its inquiries. It will also limit ongoing criminal investigations from this time period. Human rights organisations say the move is a denial of justice. More than 3,500 people were killed during the conflict over British rule in Northern Ireland. Around 1,200 deaths remain under investigation.
The Netherlands is heading to the polls for a general election that could change the face of the country's politics after more than a decade of leadership by Prime Minister Mark Rutte. 4 parties across the political spectrum are vying to become the largest bloc in the lower house of parliament. Rutte said he would not seek re-election after his final coalition ended in July, when it failed to agree on measures on migration. But the head of his party, Dylan Yeşilgöz Zegerius, could become his replacement and the country's first ever female prime minister. The 46-year-old is a former refugee now advocating for a crackdown on immigration. Her rival, Geert Wilders, is a veteran lawmaker with a history of anti-Islam rhetoric. He is advocating policies that would also block asylum seekers from entering the country. Early polling suggests that a centre-left bloc of the Labour Party and Green Left could win around 17% of the vote. Slightly behind the top 3 contenders is the new Social Contract Party, which was created over the summer. With immigration, inflation, and the climate crisis dominating the debates, the big question will be whether the executive will include the left and remain close to the European Union, or if it will lean towards the far right and distance itself from Brussels. There are 150 parliamentary seats at stake. The decision rests with Dutch voters.
After Poland's Liberal opposition coalition won a parliamentary majority, some hope controversial judicial changes introduced by the previous PIS party will now be overturned. Warsaw needs to have an independent judiciary in order to unfreeze European funds.
We didn't really feel the support of the European Union institutions, especially European Commission. But since 2019, 2020, they realized that the problem is big. Now we feel their support. There are milestones negotiated actually by the PiS government. Most of those milestones concerns the repairment of the judiciary. We have worked on 5 bills that should repair what's been damaged within the judiciary in the last 8 years. And we hope that the new government will help us to help the society to make some repairs and changes for the better.
The first step to the depoliticization of the National Council of the Judiciary Parliament has already appointed new representatives to sit in the council.
Będziemy brać udział jako te osoby wybrane przez Parlament w pracach Rady. Będziemy patrzeć na ręce tym, którzy są już w tej Radzie z tej części sędziowskiej i myślę, że to jest taki początek zmian, bo należy przede wszystkim zmienić ustawę o KRS-ie, tak żeby z powrotem sędziowie wybierali część sędziowską tego ciała, a nie politycy, ale mamy głosy, dużo opinii, że należy ten proces jeszcze też zdemokratyzować.
Poland is set to receive more than €5 billion in financing to reduce their dependence on Russia, previously frozen due to prior actions from the outgoing nationalist government.
Fundusze powinny być uruchomione natychmiast, bo to wynika po prostu z prawa europejskiego. My od dawna o tym mówiliśmy, że przyczyny, dla których te fundusze są wstrzymywane, nie mają tak naprawdę charakteru prawnego, one mają charakter wyłącznie polityczny. My się cieszymy z każdej decyzji, która przywraca stan zgodny z prawem. Stan zgodny z prawem jest taki, że Polska pieniądze otrzymuje. Mamy pierwsze decyzje, chociaż przecież z prawnego punktu widzenia nic się nie zmieniło i bardzo dobrze, dlatego że te pieniądze się po prostu Polakom należą.
Yesterday, the European Commission recommended the release of €5 billion for Poland. However, these are not funds that depend on changes in the Polish justice system. For this money, Poland will still have to wait and work. Magdalena Hodownik for Euronews from Warsaw.
Germany is extending temporary checks at the Polish border for another 20 days after the number of illegal entries into the country fell for the first time since February. According to the German Federal Police, a total of 20,000 illegal entries were documented last month. So far, more than 200 people who tried to cross the boundary have been detained. German border guards can stop cars, check documents and ask drivers to open car boots. Since mid-October, stationary checks have also been introduced at border crossings with the Czech Republic and Switzerland.